5 relationship coach Matt Townsend shares tips on how to improve your electronic communication. So we got to ask you first of all, Matt, all this high tech, and we hear all this stuff, is it actually getting in the way sometimes of communication?
Totally. It's not even going to it's not going to be here to stay. I'm pretty sure it's all going to fall down. Think about every one of those. We're still humans, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I can make cookies, but who's going to deliver them? I can make cookies, but for what motive? For what purpose? For what is this technology all for except to improve our relationships? And the reality is we're not doing so great with the technology we already have, right?
Yeah.
How well do you communicate with your text, with your email, with your phones? Are you increasing your communication and your connection with your partner, with your neighbors, with your friends, or is it getting worse?
Yeah, so often you lose some of that personal connectivity when you do that. Okay, we got a bunch of examples. We want you to walk us through on how we can improve our electronic communication. Let's start with texting, which can sometimes, a lot of people do this, but it can get in the way sometimes.
Now, texting, think about it. Texting, you know, they used to just come to your house. If somebody had died and there was a tragic accident, they'd walk to your house, they'd knock on the door in the middle of the night, and they'd tell you, you know what, your son passed. Would they now text it?
Yeah.
Would we text when we're breaking up with somebody? I had a client that broke up with her partner texting it.
Ooh,
no.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
But you hear that a lot.
You do all the
actually.
time. So part of it is texting, great tool, great device, not necessarily the key. The key is we got to ask 3 things. We got to identify why we're using whichever methodology we're using. There's three goals of communication, and you got to choose the method that matches your message. So depending on what kind of message you want to give, you got to have the right method to meet that. Okay? Are we there to communicate or to connect? Are we trying to actually connect heart to heart with somebody? If you want to connect with somebody eye to eye, not to stay in contact. If you want to connect with them, you probably ought to do it face to face. You probably ought to use an email or a phone call. A longer, more area or more space to add more information would be improve the connection. Communication. Are you trying to make something very clear and make sure the communication is being taken care of? Even when we were preparing this segment, I was in Disneyland trying to text it, and finally my assistant said, "Call me. I need to talk to you." She needed to communicate what was going on with the segment. And the last one is to stay in contact. Texting, IMing, things like that, Facebook, those are great tools to stay in contact. But if you really want to connect with somebody, I'd probably try to do it more face-to-face.
I think texting has actually influenced our phone conversations.
It has.
Because we're so used to doing things quickly now that people seem to not talk as long on the phone either.
That's right. Well, my daughter knows if it's impersonal, Dad, and you really don't have to face them, text it.
Yeah.
But that's a bad thought, because there's some things you need to face, right?
Well, Tanya mentioned the phone call. So walk me through phone call, when that's appropriate, the problems that happen with phone.
Okay, now phone call, it's a huge issue because sometimes we'll get a call and we won't even know the context of the call. Yeah. So one of the rules on this one is to put the context into the conversation. I had a lady call about a violin that my wife had put on KSL.com. I didn't even know we were selling a violin. And she says, "Hey, I'm calling about the violin." And I'm like, "Huh? You mean the piano?" Because I thought you were talking about my daughter's piano lessons. "No, I'm talking about the violin. I'm calling to see if the violin has been sold yet." And I'm like, "What violin?" And she says, "The child's violin." And I'm like, "We don't have a child that plays violin." So I'm immediately out of it. If she would call me on the phone and immediately put the context in, all she'd have to do is say something like, "Hey, I'm calling about the ad that your wife Marty put in on KSL.com to sell the violin." If she'd put the context in the conversation, or when you leave a message, "Hi, yeah, this is Matt. I'm calling about blankety blank blank blank," and leave the context in the message. All of a sudden, it allows me to pick up in the communication wherever you're starting it, instead of having to go figure out where you're coming from.
I wish everybody would do that.
Nobody does that. Yeah. Well, you do it all the time when you're teaching a lesson or you're speaking. You have to reiterate what the question was, and then you go to the answer, right?
Now, another way people are communicating a lot these days is on Facebook. Sometimes people give out too much information on Facebook.
Don't you wish there were some things that literally did stay in Vegas? Because sometimes I'm noticing on Facebook there's way too much out there. When we went to Disneyland, all of our kids Facebooked, "Hey, we're going out of town. We're leaving. And we're like, "Okay, recall those." We made them take them all off, but the reality is they're out there. There's power in the permanency of Facebook. Remember that. Don't put something out there that you don't want out there forever. It's not coming back. By the way, we were toilet papered twice while we were gone. And it's all because of Facebook. So at some point, you've got to remember that there's permanency there. So don't put anything out there that you are not proud of your family, grandkids. I've seen people argue and fight over Facebook. They've had an entire argument on Facebook on their wall. head-to-head.
I get a little nervous about posting things on Facebook because I know there are hundreds of people reading everything I'm saying. It gets a little
But look
scary.
how you filter. You filter. You're on television. That's your livelihood. It's your job. You filter much more than the rest of us. The rest of us just throw whatever out there. Hey, I just woke up. I smell a little bit. Probably ought to shower. I'm about to shower. I'm showering. Showered. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's permanent. Is that how you want to document your life? Probably not.
Well, it shows you showered. So
It does. At least,
for that.
at least I'm clean.
My kids, I think, would like that permanency
exactly
document.
right.
Okay, let's get to emails as well. The one I think I tend to.
Okay, I have a motto on this. Okay, there's 2 mottos to remember. Less is more. Fast is friendly. Less is more means the average attention span of a human is about 24 seconds. Look at that email.
Oh my gosh.
Is this one I sent
I used
you?
to have I had a client that would write me 4 to 6 pages a week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
honestly, sometimes we get press releases at KSL, and when they're too long, you don't read them all.
That's right. And so notice we edit those out. Less is more. So the less you write, I wouldn't write an email that would take longer than 24 seconds to read.
Wow.
Now, if they want more information after my email, I'll say, great, let me send you an email that's got detail. But until I've got permission to send them detail, 24 seconds is the limit. If that's the average commercial, is 30 seconds in television, it's because people can't take more than that. And then fast is friendly simply means when you get it, answer it as fast as you can. The longer you go, and I have a hard time with this because I don't even know I got some emails that I got. Fast is friendly, so do it quickly.
24-second rule. I love it right there.
24-second rule. Can't do it in 24
That's a
seconds.
tough rule.
And I try to answer it as quickly as you can. And by the way, if you answer it quickly with the 24-second rule, it's not going to be that labor intensive. You can answer it quickly because it's 24 seconds.
Okay.
Make sense?
And you're one less thing, it all comes down to people. It's all focusing on people. That's the whole point of all this.
Interactions are with people. So when you're communicating through whichever medium you choose to use, you make sure you're connecting to a human being. There's always another person there. And so when you write something specific, share your heart, share specifics, tell a joke in the email or some iteration or something that shows that you know this person, that you care. People just want, the reason we want all this technology is to connect more. We think the technology is the difference. It's not. It's your heart in whatever technology you're using. That's the difference.
Just make sure you can share that heart in 24 seconds or less.
Don't take pictures of it.
And,